Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Minutes. Great to have you aboard. I'm Carl, and thanks for tuning in this afternoon. And I've been pounding through all kinds of charts out there. There's a lot of interesting setups, some really nice looking setups, but there's reasons not to trade them, and we'll look at some of those, some of the happenings going on in the market right now, and then get to the top three. Some of the stocks I've been watching this afternoon. First of all, we just take a look at the market here, and the market up about 5.5 right now. It's just kind of hovering there. It's been at the same level now for a few days in a row. Not wanting to go much higher yet, not selling off much either. So we'll just keep watching the market. Starting to show a little bit of signs of weakness. A lot of the bullish trades that we've made, what we looked at lately, have kind of fizzled here. So if we do enter any type of a bullish trade, it's going to be a really, really good looking setup at this point. Pretty much picture perfect with everything we like to see. All right, so here's some of the stocks I've been looking at, and one of them is Bed Bath and Beyond, BBBY. There's always the BBY, and then there's the BBBY. BBY is the Best Buy. But here's Bed Bath & Beyond. It was down a little bit earlier on, a little bit further than this, breaking into that lower band. This is a trend writer bear signal. Okay, now look at other stocks in this group. You look at a Costco, and look what they're doing today. They're flying high. Look at Walmart. They're up quite dramatically. Now, Abercrombie and Finch had a really bad earnings announcement, and they're down pretty big today. That might be affecting these, but the big thing right now with these is tomorrow morning there's a chain store sales report due out, and there's a lot of positioning going on within these retailers ahead of those numbers. So that's why BBBY has a great looking setup. One that you might want, one that could chase, but don't trust it because who knows what's going to happen come when those numbers come out tomorrow morning, right? If tomorrow morning if it starts to shoot lower, we may enter it, but we'd be entering on kind of more of a fundamental move at that stage here. So interesting, when they came across my scans, I looked and checked them out and saw all kinds of things going on with the retailers, the big chain stores, and everything going every which direction there. So it just tells you there's a lot of positioning going on ahead of the numbers there tomorrow. Another one I've been watching, but it's kind of fizzling. Some of the ones I was watching earlier on are pulling back a little bit. And we look at these. ConocoPhillips had a nice looking breakout early on. Sold off a little bit since I first saw it earlier today. Halliburton. Now look at Halliburton. A nice push up a little bit higher. Now the bands are contracting here. You look at the Bollinger Bands. Let me zoom in on this so you can get a better look at that. And you can see how they're contracting a little bit right up in this range. Remember, when the Bollinger Bands contract, they tend to act as resistance. Doesn't mean they always will, but they tend to act as resistance. When they're expanding is when they more act a little bit more, they flow with the price. Right. Allstate. We got light volume going on here with Allstate, and then the Travelers, a very similar looking chart here. Travelers breaking a little bit higher today. I've looked through all these. I even looked over at Joy Global. There's nothing there. Joy Global, to get bearish, it's really going to have to break down below 57. I'd like the volumes to pick up. Volume has been really light, but it's not breaking down. No big bearish action going on right here, right now. All right, so top three. Let's talk top three. First one, and Jeff has been looking at this, and I've been looking at it all day as well. This is Yelp. Okay, and there's been a little bit of talk on this in chat. Yeah, it's dropped about 6% today. The implied volatility is a little bit high. The options are a little bit high priced right now. We're going to watch this into the close, but there's several things going on. If And Jeff talked about a lot of this just not too long ago as far as the candles here. You look at the candle patterns, how the bearish patterns here are working. Bearish engulfing worked. Comes back up, you get gravestones, you get today's big bearish engulfing, and you got a lot of volume here. There's negative divergences on a lot of the indicators, and so this is looking like a pretty bearish chart here on Yelp. And it's one of the top 3 that I'm looking at today. For this would be for a bearish. It'd be a little bit of an anticipation of a trend rider bear strategy. It's not there. For a trend rider bear, we would want this to break down into the lower band, and it could be chaseable come morning. Okay, but that's what we'd like to see it do. Is if is break into that lower Bollinger Band for a true trend rider bear signal. So this would be one of those anticipation type moves if we do happen to trade on this today. And remember, with anticipation moves, the risk is a little bit higher, but the reward can be a lot greater if it does turn out. Okay, but yeah, I like that one. Also, another one on the top 3 is Capital One. Now, Capital One, it's close to a trend rider bear, but look what's been going on. You see the stock has been uptrending, and then notice what starts happening. You have a big bearish engulfing pattern right up here. It worked. Okay, then you gotta hang on a second. Then you've got a gravestone doji, followed by, it's not a true bearish engulfing pattern, but guess what happened that time? Same thing. Gets up there, there's some follow through on it. Now we've got, it's very close to a bearish engulfing pattern once again. It's close enough, I'd call it. But if this were to run down a little bit more into the close, we've got 3 different patterns here. All have been with some follow through, and you can also look at this in terms of the 7. It dipped below the 7 there. It came up and retested the 7 over in this range, failed. It came up to it yesterday, and it pushed back below it today. If it does that in the close, it would fail once again. So there's a lot of bearish activity going on here with Capital One. That's another one. And the last one is Oracle. So this is the opposite side of it. The other 2 we were looking at they hadn't triggered yet as far as trend rider bears, but they both have great candlestick patterns that seem to keep working. The bearish patterns going on them. They're very close to trend rider bears, but they're not there yet. Oracle, trend rider bull. And given the market, the action in the market today, this is holding up very well. It's broken up above 34. It's broken up above 34. 34 has been a pretty big level of resistance for it here recently. Couldn't make it over in this range. Couldn't make it. Now here it was above 34. If you look at it way back here, above 34, broke below it, and it became a new resistance level for it right here. And then we're coming up and pushing up above it today, and you got some volume on this. Now if it sells off into the close and closes back below 34, then all bets are off to the upside in the near term. We've had, there's also been a little bit of a ascending wedge pattern right here, which was confirmed today. Okay, so we're going to watch this one in the close. We might buy some of these. We're looking for a trade today, AK, so we might do one of these into the close tonight. These are some pretty good looking setups. We just want to watch them, that last hour. And if you've been trading with us a lot for a while now, you know that. And for the newcomers, that's when we do the majority of our trading is in the last hour of the day, because we want to see how they're closing. Right here, it's a really good looking setup. It's a break-in above 34, which has been resistance. It's got some volume on it today. But if it's sold off into the close, that last 30, 40 minutes, then it's not a very good looking setup anymore. doesn't mean it's not going to go higher, but it just decreases the accuracy a little bit on the trade. Okay, so we'll watch those three into the close. The top three was Yelp, YELP, and then ConocoPhillips. ConocoPhillips. Make that capital one and not a COP. COF, and then Oracle, ORCL. That's the stocks that we've been looking at today. Some of the ones that we talked about yesterday. Now they didn't make the top. Well, the top three yesterday we had. Sorry, it wasn't U.S. Steel. The top three yesterday we had IBM. Now IBM has been going up with the market today, so it's snapping out. It's still right there at the overall trend line. Okay, it's going up there above the 7. It has gone up $2.50 today, 1.5%. And this would be one to watch if it runs up into that 180 level and pushes back below it. And we probably have a good thing going here. But right now, it's pulled up a little bit on us. The other one that we were looking at yesterday was, and this was a bullish entry, was on Starbucks. So this is gapped higher and pulled back a little bit. Now it's not below the 7. The trade wouldn't be broken if you're in this. The trade is not broken. Just watch for it tomorrow. If it comes up into the close, good news. Even if it doesn't, if it closes right here, stay in it till it closes below the 7. That would be your stop on Starbucks. Right now, pulling back, a little bit lighter volumes. Technically, there's nothing to be concerned about if you're bullish on this. Okay, and then the last one we looked at yesterday was Lowe's. Okay, and this is holding up there above 50 pretty well today. It was sold off a little bit earlier on. Right now, it's above 50. A hold of 50 and a hold of the 7-day moving average. If you can push up off of this, come tomorrow, that'd be a beautiful looking trade to the upside with a lot more upside potential on it right now. But so far they're holding their own up there. Okay, and a couple of stocks that we looked at, the option values were a little bit, pretty thinly traded, so we didn't do it. I know some of you did it out there. Krispy Kreme gapped up. It's up above 26. Okay, right now it's up about 56 cents. Watch it into the close. If it looks like it's going to form a gravestone, I'd be a little bit hesitant to hold it. Gravestone patterns tend to be fairly accurate. Looking back at the history here on gravestones, whenever I look at a chart and I want to see if the candle patterns are fairly accurate, I'll always go back and look. Now that's not a perfect gravestone, but you can see what happened there. Now gravestone-ish, that would be a falling star pattern. Fairly called a little bit. Seems like I saw another one there. Well, here's a dragonfly down here, which tended to follow through. It's fairly accurate around these types of candle patterns. So into the close, if I saw a gravestone action up here, I don't know if I'd hold it if it had a little bit of a gain right there. Okay. And then the other one we looked at yesterday that was, again, thinly traded on the option side. The spread's a little bit wide. The open interest really fairly low. Both of these had open interest less than 100. Was Clorox. And today it's doing well. It's one of the stronger performers in the consumer staples area today. The Hershey's and the J&J's of the world. Let's just take a look at them right now. Hershey, just fairly flat today. Johnson & Johnson, same thing. Not much action going on here. General Mills, it's got a gap up. It's holding up that way. Colgate-Palmolive, it's up. For me to get really bullish on this, and would be a bullish sign, would be for this thing to break up through the $60 level. Because if you had a nice push up above 66 on this, it would trigger another bull vibe entrance. And then another one in there that we've been looking at here. They had earnings, and they had that huge reversal on earnings. Yeah, look what's happened since then. So here's our earnings announcement, the big old black candlestick we see right here. Followed the next day by a gap lower and a run lower to close with a gain yesterday. Pushing higher above the 7 today. Now it's just not that convincing right now. It's a smaller candle. I would need a little bit stronger push up through that 7. The volume's going to be a little bit lighter than it has been the last little while. That's the only thing that a little bit hesitant. I'd be a little bit hesitant to jump in here. I just want a little bit wider body on that candlestick and a little bit more volume back in that move right there. Okay, but this is one of those earnings reversals, and I got an email from one of our members out there. It was asking me about these the reversals, the reversal candles, and there's been a lot of them this year, more so than I can remember in recent history. You know, from Netflix to U.S. Steel to well, here's Kellogg's, and there's all kinds of them. I forget all the names now, but there's been some big time reversals this year, and I know you guys know a bunch of them. Okay. All right, let's go. Yeah, Microsoft. And 1T, you brought this up, the news on it. You know, Cramer mentioned it. There's been some other article talking about Microsoft. Cramer mentioned a couple things. One of them, he said that Ford CEO Mullally, something like that, he could be the next Microsoft CEO. And then he also said that Microsoft isn't fully taking advantage of their Xbox. He thinks that could be a real moneymaker for him. But he said that if they spun it off, it could make Microsoft a lot more appealing. Now, that's just hearsay. You know, that's no talk of Microsoft selling off spinning off Xbox. But so yeah, it's just been getting a lot of positive attention recently, and that's probably back in this move. Very strong move. Technically, it's about $2 away from the 7. I don't see an entrance here. I'd like to see some consolidation. You know, maybe they'll pull back to the 7 at 37, heck, even down to the 36 level, and then a push higher if you can get that. But on these stronger moves, a lot of times they don't pull back all the way back to prior resistance, which was back there at 36. That was a pretty big resistance level for it. Another stock I've been watching today was SPG, and then I'll get to some of the others. This is another one of those, but I'm not sold on it yet. That's why I just want to look at it. I don't want to mention the top 3 or anything, but you look at the price action here. So it's been going up, and then it fell below the 7 right back here, and then comes up on the 7. Now that forms it's called a dragonfly. It's pretty close to it. But it's not at a bottom, it's more of a little bit of a top, which is a reversal pattern. It worked. A push back lower, breaking 155, and a push below that 7 right there, which it's kind of doing right now, would be really bearish for this. I'd want to see this push below the 155 mark. The only thing that's a little bit hesitant is you look at the Bollinger Bands here contracting pretty hard. When they contract like that, they can be support levels for it. It'd have a little ways to go, but not as much as I'd like for a stock in the $155 range to drop back $2.50. And it wouldn't be that big of a mover. Okay, but you get this thing breaking 155 on some volumes and let it consolidate a little bit. This could end up forming a trend right or bear signal, but it's not there yet. Okay, and then Yum. Yum Brands. Yeah, there's a little doji pattern right up there at a pretty significant level. You always hear me talk about the multiples of 10. All right, the multiples of 10 tend to be the biggest levels of support / resistance. And it broke through 70 yesterday. Today, kind of a little spinning top pattern up there. For me, it'd be a little bit early to enter anything right in here. To get bullish on it, I wanted to see it come up here above I'd like to see this come up above the $70 mark and then hold that level. It might pull back a little bit in here. I wouldn't get too bearish here. Basically, you've seen the runs here. The run here had a little bit of a higher low at this level. Watch where this next higher low comes in, wherever that might be, 69.5, 70, whatever that is. Then look for an entrance to play the bullish side at this point. Just watch for a little bit of a pullback on Yum Brands. That's what I'd be looking for. And then AIG. Yeah, ouch. So for this one, let's go in on a little bit here. The big level here is 48. Close right here. I mean, that's pretty bearish action. Actually, it's not even 48. It's about 48 and a half. So I get rid of that. It's about 48 and a half. You can see that's where the resistance has been for it, slash support. Volumes are high, breaking through 48. There's a good chance this could drop into the 46. 46 seems to be the next good level of support underneath it. Let me bring in the trend writer. It's going in the lower Bollinger Bands. Now the bands are pretty wide right in here. If you look at the Bollinger Band width, it's trying to turn up there, which means they're expanding. But really this price action looks like it could take it down to the $46 range to me. And it's got the volume to push it. Huge selling volume here, and it's been high ever since. Probably a little bit, tiny bit of short covering down here, the day after the gap, as it ran up like that, and just rolling over pretty hard. Yeah, very bearish price action there. If you entered on this, use today's high as your stop. It's a little bit of ways away from it's about $2.50 away from the 7 in this range. Doesn't mean it's going to pull right back to it. There's a chance of some consolidation. I wouldn't think there'd be a snapback rally here unless some kind of good news broke out. But yeah, this could come down to the $46 range. I don't without much of a problem. Yeah, just use today's high as a stop, and it's a really bearish looking setup. Thanks, Cam. So with LNG, big bearish engulfing pattern. So there's a couple things that I want to look at here. First of all, one of the indicators that tend to be fairly accurate, not all the time, but be fairly accurate. Look at the RSI up here breaking 70. The RSI breaks 70, you're typically going to get something from it. Not all the time. See, just to be fair, it broke 70 right there, and we just had a little bit of flatness and before it was going. It's a little bit different. Look at the angles at which they drop. This is one of the sharper angles that you're going to get out of the RSI, breaking below 70. Now, it's a strong bearish engulfing pattern. The volume's a little bit light on this type of reversal, but let's look closer at this. The bands are contracting in here, which means it could drop down in the lower band, right? At this stage. Look at the bearish candle action here. So we had a bearish engulfing over right here. So there's one bearish engulfing. Just figured a very short-term weakness, okay? And then you get very gravestone-ish looking. That would be a falling star pattern right there with some follow-through. And now you're getting a big a big bearish engulfing pattern. A break of 39, if it could hold down at this range right here, yeah, you can also look at it like this. I mean, check out the past resistance level right here at 40. So it's doing a big reversal at one of the bigger support / resistance levels. Breaking through the 7 in very hard fashion. The only thing that's not quite there yet on one of the bigger reversals here is the volume. Yeah, you could argue a 3 methods falling pattern in there, confirming today as well. This could come down into the lower Bollinger Band is where I'd look for this to go. It's just the volume's a little bit light on a bigger reversal like that, but you can see how the candles are all setting up bearish, and then you start to get some follow through, and then another big bearish engulfing pattern today. Yeah, down into the lower Bollinger Band is about where that could go. Oh, thanks, Tradehound. Yeah, that's one of the things we also got to look at. So they're announcing earnings Friday. I believe Friday's the 8th. So thank you. So trading that, if you did do that, you'd have to be out by Friday, which is not going to give you much time in a trade. We don't hold trades through earnings. Occasionally, with profits under our belts, we'll do the earnings earnings calls, earnings announcements. There's some pretty fun strategies we can do when we get some profits under our belts. We're looking forward to the next challenge and getting that up and running and getting some profits built in there so that we can do some of these maybe a higher risk trade, but what you do to control the risk on a high risk trade, which basically what we'd consider a high risk trade is all or nothing. You do short-term options, all or nothing, and you're trading some type of an event. But how to control the risk is you buy much less. So even if you lost it all, you still were controlling the risk. We like to buy around $2,000 initially when we're getting into the trades, but if we have $10,000 to $12,000 in gains, we might take $1,000 and put it into a high risk trade, and maybe it pays off. If it doesn't, we lost a small portion of the account. We don't get hurt. Okay, so those things that you can look forward to. We did one of those in the first challenge. I know Steve and a lot of the people in here right now remember that. We did one on CLF, and it turned out to be a big winner for us. Okay, so just want to run back through. Let's take a look at our positions while we're here. Got silver. This has been kind of up a little bit, down a little bit. Well, up. I've seen it up to about 7 cents. 6-7 cents is about as low as it's come. It's just kind of going sideways since the open. It's up about a dime right now. And then ABX, just flat. And this is going to be really, really sluggish. Even if gold really takes off, this is just going to be sluggish. Right about here is where they priced those 135 million shares. And it's just kind of sticking to that range. Until those all get going, the stock's just going to be really sluggish. Even if you get a pretty good price jump in the price of gold, this is still going to be more sluggish than some of the others, like a Newmont or an AUY. Newmont's up today. AUY not quite as much. Newmont, Goldcore. Those are going to be some of your better trades on the jump in the price of gold, but it's not there yet. We're not looking for that right away. Okay, everybody, top three, just to revisit. I'll be talking with Jeff here shortly, see what we want to do. Yelp was one of the top three. That would be a bearish setup. A lot of candle patterns on that, as well as possible trend rider bear signal. And then Capital One, another bearish this would be a bearish candle pattern and a possible trend rider bear setup right there. And then Oracle to the upside. Oracle breaking up through 34. It's got some volume pushing that move. Looks like a pretty strong breakout. Okay, so I'm going to jump off here. We'll be back on in about 15 minutes or so and to wrap up the day and look for a possible new entry. Okay, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye.